And now to this, Beijing, Beige out. The Chinese Cosco shipping lines will no longer be sailing to Israeli ports. This despite the fact that Houtis have not and have no intention of attacking Chinese ships. Cosco, the fourth largest in the world, is the first international company to halt all business with Israel. But it's not just about shipping. Not at all, really. We want to turn now to Mr. Tal Reshef, East Asia expert. Thank you very much, Mr. Reshef, for joining us. Well, this is just the recent in a series of Chinese blows to Israel since the war began in all spheres of industry and commerce and business. Now this, and it's a major one.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we need to understand the Chinese side and the map of interests of China and the way that they are handling their interests in order to have the perspective and understand what's going on. I see some articles in Israeli media describing it as China putting themselves on the side of Hamas or the side of Iran, which is absolutely not. They are trying to gain the most from all sides. They need Israeli technology, and they need Iranian oil and oil from other Arab sources. And the last thing that they need is one of their ships is getting attacked by the Houtis, and they cannot trust the Houtis not to shoot them, because they could see, and everybody could see, that the Houtis are not precise, they're not accurate. They've kidnapped in the beginning a ship that they claimed was Israeli, which was not. On the same way, they can attack a Chinese ship without noticing that it is Chinese. And the last thing that China wants is to get itself inside of it between Israel and the United States on one side and Iran and the Houthis on the other one. It's against their interests.
And yet, Mr. Reshef, it's not as if the Chinese are passive diplomatically or economically. They're actively acting against Israel in these two spheres, not to mention Chinese weapons found in the Gaza Strip.
Well, I would not describe it as being anti-Israeli actively. First of all, there's no change of policy. They've always voted against Israel in the United Nations and in other international locations, and that's all. They never took any active step against Israel beyond that, and it never had their diplomatic relations with us, their commercial relations with us. It is something that has become already a tradition. They are voting against us, just as some other countries, and that's it. And I have the impression that their calculation is that Israelis will understand it and will not care too much. They will not make a hassle out of it. While if they do the opposite, it will cause problems, because the Iranian and the Arab side is more sensitive to international activities. So they give us the message, look, we're going to vote against you again and again, but you're going to gain a lot but by the commerce you have with us.
By not making a big fuss out of it. But there is perhaps a big strategic problem here, and Dr. Shimoni here in studio, perhaps you can chime in as well, because much Chinese involvement in Israeli strategic assets, something that the U.S. has been trying to hinder for years now. Israel was a bit reckless or maybe careless when doing business with the Chinese here, Dr. Shimoni.
Well, there's talk about Chinese infrastructure being expanded here in Israel, and that means that the Chinese gain a lot of influence here and a lot of knowledge and
access
and power. I don't think this is something very, very significant now during this crisis. I believe Israel and China will not go beyond exchanging a few messages. I believe China will try to resume free navigation by ships in all seas. And again, we have to differentiate between a Chinese shipping company and the Chinese government.
Can we really, Mr. Reshef, make this distinction clearly?
Yes, we can. We have done it so far. I believe it will continue. Israel has a strong interest to maintain good relationship with China. And in fact, the declaration and the voting against Israel, which are only symbolical, do not really hurt Israel in any practical way. So Israel can't tolerate it. And China can tolerate it on the other side. But China will not tolerate if Israel will release some statements and voting against China, because China, just as the Muslim world, is more sensitive than us. So this is the kind of balance that is created.
Well, maybe Israel should become a bit more sensitive. It seems that the sensitive ones are gaining from their sensitivity. Mr.
I don't see it happening. Look, China, one sensitive one, following this way of thinking, is in decline. Since 2019, they are in continuing decline in all aspects, commercially, economically, politically, geopolitically. Anyway, they are losing ground to the United States.
Well, perhaps this too should be added to this long list of conceptions to be reviewed anew. Let's put it that way. Mr. Tal Reshef,